It was late at night. It was time to sleep, but Elise couldn't sleep at all. She was very nervous. Even though she felt that there were definitely more good people than bad ones in the world. But she had only known John for one day. Besides, the information they had said that John had some mental illness. So what was she going to do if he suddenly went out of control? John was lying on the floor and he could sense the anxiety in Elise's breathing.
You don't have to put a pair of scissors under your pillow. Don't worry and just sleep. Good night.
John then closed his eyes first. Elise's heart dropped and she took her hand out from under the pillow. She bit her lip gently. How did John know she had put a pair of scissors there? She thought to herself.
He won't hurt me.
For some reason, Elise was more and more confident of this. So she relaxed, closed her eyes and fell asleep. The night passed uneventfully. Elise woke up the next day, and she had slept pretty okay. John was already eating breakfast when she walked out of the room. Instead, it was Mary who had bloodshot eyes. She obviously hadn't slept well.
Quickly come and eat breakfast. Mom woke up super early to prepare it.
John really helped himself around here. When she saw Elise head for the bathroom, Mary quickly ran in after her.
Last night, did he?
Nothing happened, Mom. He slept on the floor, didn't touch me.
After saying that, Elise found herself thinking in a different direction. Should she praise John for being gentlemanly, or that she wasn't charming enough? That wasn't possible. She had been the prettiest girl around since she was young. If she burnt all the love letters she received, the fire could cook a whole pot of porridge. Mary was relieved to hear this. She was secretly hoping to wait for a good time to separate Elise and John, so they could live separate lives.
Come on, I will send you to work.
Once John was done with breakfast, he wanted to send Elise to work.
No need, I will go by myself. You'd better stay at home, it's dangerous outside. What if Troy secretly attacks you?
Don't worry, they wouldn't dare.
John frowned as he saw Elise push her electric scooter out. A scooter, huh? She was the granddaughter of the Dawsons. But her standard of living was really quite poor. Elise felt bad to reject him. So she let John ride the scooter while she hid behind his back. At least this way she didn't have to endure the cold wind in her face. Somehow this feeling was a little different. At the Dawson Group headquarters main entrance, there were more than 100 employees standing at the main door waiting to receive Elise. But you could see anger and displeasure written on everybody's faces. They only got the notice at around 1 or 2 a.m. the night before that. They had to be in office an hour earlier to receive Elise. And why should they do this anyway? Especially after they had heard some gossip about Elise sleeping with the infamous CEO Hiddleston, and was purposely showing off to Dawson Group. Never mind that the company could face tremendous losses. She even decided willfully that she wouldn't go to work since she didn't want to. Even the CEO Jerome, her uncle, had to beg her to come back to work. This was going overboard. How could there be such a person? The anger among the employees was enough to reach the sky. Jerome stood right in front and could feel the anger from the employees. This was exactly the effect he wanted. He didn't believe Elise could still stay in Dawson Group after ruffling all her colleagues' feathers. Once she had signed the contract, she would definitely leave quietly.
Have you called CEO Hiddleston?
I did. When I said Elise would be here, he said he'd drop by personally.
Troy was filled with jealousy. When he went to get the contract signed, he didn't have the right to even see CEO Hiddleston. but now that Elise was the one representing them, CEO Hiddleston was actually making a trip to their company. This slut really had a trick or two, huh? This was better still. He was going to let the entire company see Elise's true colors. John was riding the scooter, and as the pillion rider, Elise had nowhere to place her hands and could only gently hold on to John's clothes.
I didn't expect this.
From afar, John could see that Jerome had brought a large group of employees to stand at the entrance with him. And a naughty look flashed across his face. This Jerome really didn't know what was good for him. Elise alighted and was immediately shocked by what she saw. Wasn't it supposed to be only Jerome waiting for her? What was the entire company doing out here? She suddenly felt claustrophobic. Troy threw a glance at his secretary, and she immediately shouted,
"We welcome back Miss Dawson."
The next moment, the entire group of employees shouted the same thing in unison. Elise could feel very clearly that their voices were filled with anger, hate, displeasure, and even disdain. Well, after standing for so long in the cold, anybody would be unhappy too. She didn't expect Jerome to make such an arrangement.
Elise, you happy now?
Jerome was full of smiles, but his words sounded strange to her. It was as if Elise was the one who forced him to do all this, and they had no choice but to obey. Elise's face started to redden and she felt trapped, but didn't know how to explain herself. There was no point in explaining, right? The look in those employees' eyes looked like they were about to kill her.
I guess I am quite happy.
John, on the other hand, nodded his head and looked at Jerome and calmly said,
You have done pretty well.
These words made Jerome's eyes start shooting flames out instantly. What did John mean by that? As if he was praising a dog. He wanted to say more, but John ignored him and brought Elise into the office.
Who does he think he is? He thinks he is really something.
So arrogant. No wonder Elise is also so arrogant. Isn't he just someone who married into the family?
I heard he was homeless and has mental illness. This Elise has some strong taste in men.
And got even angrier. Initially they didn't believe that Elise was really someone like that, since many of them had worked with her. But now Elise's useless husband was equally arrogant and even dared to mock Jerome. So surely Elise was even more unreasonable, right? Looks like she was acting all along. What a hypocrite. Elise started tearing up. She wasn't deaf. The voices weren't loud, but they still made it to her ears. She felt that this wasn't fair to her, because she hadn't done any of these things.
Don't worry about what others think. It's the people who aren't as good as you who will try all means and ways to destroy you.
Elise looked at John stunned, then she nodded. Jerome had arranged a new office space for her. She had it all to herself, bigger and more luxurious than her previous office. This made the other employees even unhappier. Elise wanted to refuse this new office, but John just opened the door and walked in without a care. To him, it was sad that his wife had to use such an office.
Dad, I think the entire company hates Elise now.
Troy was overjoyed thinking about this. Jerome smiled coldly. He had plenty of ways to deal with people like that. This was merely a tiny Elise. He didn't even need to think too hard.
Is CEO Hiddleston here yet?
No, not yet, but he should be reaching soon.
Jerome nodded.
Later we are going to expose Elise's true colors. Do you think that lunatic John will go crazy and beat CEO Hiddleston to death when he knows his wife has already been sullied by CEO Hiddleston?
There was a smug look on both father and son's faces.
This marks the end of Chapter 9. Please subscribe to my channel and comment any other novel you'd like to be featured here.